Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another SLG Meetup. Your host Alvaro to bring you another successful and interesting guest. Today we're going to have with us somebody very special. In fact, one of the top real estate agents in the country. He's been named top 5 by the Wall Street Journal's number 1 in California with over $20 billion sold. And his name is Aaron Kirman. He's the CEO of Christie in Southern California. And we're going to talk about what it takes to put yourself at that high level of selling some of the most incredible homes, not just in the US, but in the whole world. So with us, we're going to have Aaron Kirman.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend.
Oh,
What's
keep
going on, Aaron?
talking to me. Keep talking to me.
Come on, I'm sure you're used to it, huh?
You never get used to it. No, definitely not. How are you?
Good. I'll give you a couple more compliments throughout the conversation. How about that?
Perfect. This is the best part of my day. It's already going well.
There you go. I love it. Where are you at the moment? Are you in LA?
We are in LA in my office.
Wow, you have beautiful views in the background. I love that.
Thank you. Thank
Which
you.
is what you do, by the way. You're living the dream and selling the dream.
Yeah, we try. Hey, we try to live it and sell it, right? You got to do both.
Look, let me get started. How in the world you get to list and sell properties that are beyond $100 million? I mean, for people that are just listening or watching this, there is properties out there that are worth more than 100 million. And you are the man. You are the one that is listing them and selling them. How is that possible?
I ask myself that every single day. I'm the byproduct. My dad was a trucker. My mom was a school teacher. And so I wasn't born into this world. And somehow through, hard work, lots of work, good intelligence, good strategy, we landed here. And it didn't happen overnight. And I always tell people success, especially in real estate, takes time. And, we all have to be willing to do the work.
I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not from the US. I'm from Madrid, Spain. And when I first came to the States, and actually when the first time I moved to the LA just for a little bit, I was like, man, those houses right there, they're ridiculous. And I started to look at the price and I was blown away. And I was thinking, this is where the celebrities and all these incredible people are living. Who is the guy that opens the door? Who is the guy that is actually transacting this? Because my father comes from architectural, my mother real estate. But in Spain, we don't have those properties. So just seeing someone like yourself doing that, it makes me wonder, how does somebody get to that level? And you just said something very interesting. You don't come from that luxury. So how does somebody build to that degree?
I started selling $150,000 houses in the San Fernando Valley. So, we started slow and we just kept inching our way up. I'm always chronically unhappy with where I am. I always want to get bigger and better. And we always want to do more. And so, I took that 150 and went to 250, and that 250 went to 350, and that 350 went to 450. And over time, you start to, if you're positioned correctly, you start to meet the right people. And I always tell people, one person can change your life. One client can change your life. And I was really lucky because I started to meet multiple clients that changed my life. And I remember, this goes back when I was 18. I was selling real estate. I was putting myself to college.
Oh, you started early.
Yeah, that early. And I'll never forget, at that time we had 4 floor calls where you just take random calls. And some guy called me and he said, I want a house. And I was like, what kind of house do you want? And it was very specific. And I was like, I'll find you that house. But I had no idea what he wanted. It was impossible to find. Long story short, a couple months later, a lot of bad phone calls, bad drives. He hated me at the time. I called him and I said, listen, I found your house. He ended up buying that house, and he was connected to many, many people in art and fashion and real estate. And that was kind of my start. And that one person changed my life.
Wow. Talk about that, right? I mean, is there resilience of continuously doing what you're doing? Is that compound effect that eventually will lead to that one person that will change the whole game?
Absolutely.
And
then once you have that foundation, once you have that game, you meet the next person. So I'll never forget, one day I met through a friend, a royal family member from Saudi Arabia. And he said to me, he's like, I'm going to buy a house from you one day. And I didn't even believe it. I just thought he was talking, and we kept in touch. We were friends. I made sure to stay in touch with him. 4 years later, 5 years later, he bought a $45 million house.
Wow.
And he did exactly what he said he was going to do. And that opened the door to a totally different world of royal family members and kings and queens and billionaires. And so it started to just roll. But, it took the foundation and the people that change your life. And then also from there, organizing I always was never the kind of guy that I'm not a cold caller. I'm not a door knocker. I don't even know how to do it. So that's not my thing. But what I recognized at a very young age is I want soldiers that have a Rolodex that I can attach to. Because if there's a family office or a business manager that represents 20 of the, multimillionaires or billionaires, that person can be my best advocate. So all I have to do is find that one to get to 20.
That's right. That's smart, by the way, because it's about the leverage that you can get through people. But I mean, look, I got to ask you, because it sounds great, right? And it gives people hope, but you probably had to develop certain level of skills at a personal level to connect with these individuals. Was it knowledge? Was it drive? Was it charisma? What made you feel that connection with these individuals that opened the doors?
So it wasn't always like this because, I have severe learning disabilities. I couldn't even talk when I was a kid. So I had a lot of challenges. I think because I had those challenges, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at reading. I'm not great at writing. There's a lot of things I'm not good at. The one thing I understood, though, was interpersonal relationships because I was always watching them from afar. And I was able to take those interpersonal relationships and really hone in on them. And so for some weird reason, when I started in the business at a very young age, I was pretty decent at sales before I knew anything. I walked the walk, I talked the talk, and it took me a long time to get great because when you don't know what you're doing, you're not great. But once you really know what you're doing and you legitimately believe that you're the best person for the job, that confidence translates to pure success. And, legitimately, when I go into a listing appointment, whether it's 100 million, 200 million, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, I legitimately think my systems, my process, my contacts, all my marketing, all makes me the best person for the job. And thank God sellers agree.
I love that, by the way, the confidence, right? Because I think confidence is coming both ways. If you are coming in with confidence, then that person is going to have confidence in you. And that's what you were able to double down on. Now, what would you suggest for somebody that lacks of confidence? What can they do to build that confidence up? Is it acquiring knowledge, or what would you say?
I think it's two things. First and foremost, authenticity is what I think leads to confidence, because when you're your authentic self, I think the sky's the limit, because everybody has their people and everybody has their place. And what I notice is people try to not fall into, people try to fall into what they think is right. And that lack of authenticity is what makes people feel uncomfortable. So it's not until you own who you are, what you do. And by the way, it could be anything. I have agents in my brokerage that go to parties and clubs and they get millions and millions of dollars in commission from doing that. I have agents that, play on the golf course and get millions. So authentically knowing what your skill set is and who you are goes a long way. And then you need to carry it through the knowledge, the intelligence of infrastructure, and being at the right place at the right time. But that knowledge is very important too. And setting up the trend, because, selling real estate is like running, for us, we're running big businesses, and anything that a massive business does, we need to do, from PR, media, television, technology, and everything else in the middle.
Wow. But you started with something very important, authenticity. And you're right. A lot of people try to be someone that they are not. And it's okay to stay in the lane of authenticity, because that's what's going to lead to connecting with people at a higher level. So that's so important. And nowadays, unfortunately, people want to imitate what others are doing, thinking that that's the right path, but that's just going to take you against the wall. And seeing you, I just see you flawlessly thriving through. And of course, now you've been doing this for many years, But if I go back many years, you've always been true to yourself. And I love
By
that.
the
And it comes
way,
along.
not always, not always. Like that was a skill set. So like everyone else, when you're finding your way, I wasn't always authentic to myself. And I always looked at other people and I was like, God, they're doing it better. They're better, they're bigger, they're selling more, they're more knowledgeable, they have more history. And so that leads to insecurity. And then you go into that insecurity and you watch and study. And I'll never forget, I went into a lot of listing appointments at the time in suits and jackets. And I'll never forget, I had a $100 million listing appointment and I spilled coffee. And it was right before the listing appointment and I was left with a white t-shirt. And I went into this 100, and it was the biggest listing appointment of my life at the time. And I remember thinking, God, this is not good. But for some reason, when I went into that appointment, not having that jacket, not having that suit felt so good to me. I was in such a good mood because I felt light and I didn't feel like I was working. And I got that $100 million house. And that was the day that I stopped wearing formal clothes. And I'm like, you know what? If I feel better being casual, I'm going to be me.
Huh. What a great story. And you know, I've always wondered that. And that was a question I was going to ask you, because I see a lot of these successful brokers always dressing for success with the tie, with the jacket. And then here you are, like completely fresh, completely looking like comfortable and doing your thing. And I wanted to know if you always wear this way. And
No,
I
not
guess
at all.
not.
I mean,
I guess it took a coffee to be dropped on your jacket to change the game.
It did. And by the way, it was like a game changer because it helped me to be more authentic to when I feel good. And I always tell people, when you feel good, you will make a lot of money. When you're like, I don't know about you, but for me, when I'm in a good mood, the world just lands on me. Like the best houses, the best clients, I find checks in my car, like the world rolls, right? And when I'm not in a good mood, it comes crashing down the same way. Like the checks stop, the deals fall, problems come in. And so a lot of what I teach is take care of yourself, be selfish with your time, be selfish with the way that you are, because if you're feeling good and you're treating yourself right, abundance will flow.
I love that. I mean, you're having that abundance mindset, and it all comes from energy, right? The vibration that you're giving out to the world. Because I always say energy is the strongest currency for personal and professional success. And if you have good energy, you start attracting. It could be the law of attraction, manifestation, whatever you want to call it. But you're right. Good things start to occur.
Exactly. Well, I think it's two things. I think it's energy, and I think it's for me, it's gratitude. Because like,
oh my God,
you could always look at the world and be like, God, everyone has more. Or, this person's better looking, or smarter, or younger, or richer, or poor, whatever it may be. But for me, I always start with what I have, and when I leave I try when I leave the day to say to myself, I really don't need anything because I'm good. So any things that come my way are just making me even better.
I love that, because, you know, a lot of people, as you said it, you know, they're always thinking, oh, the grass is greener on the other side, but the grass is greener where you water it, and that's you.
That's it.
And that's where I wanted to lead this too, because you have accomplished such a high level of success. How do you keep watering that grass? Because a lot of people reach a high level of success, and then all of a sudden they stop, and they go straight down. You've been at the top of your game for many years, and I'm sure you've had your ups and downs. But how do you stay consistent at the game?
You know, I think it comes from being poor. When I grew up, I grew up poor. And so, you know, this is not a good thing, but it's like that poor man's mentality, which is I'm never happy. Like I'm happy in life, but I'm not happy in where I am. Once I get really comfortable, I make myself uncomfortable with the next thing. Because I like to be challenged, I like to grow, and with growth comes being uncomfortable. And every time I've, you know, started to just flatline, I started to get anxious. And that anxiousness led me to thinking, okay, what's my next thing? And how am I going to get to where I want to go to? And what changes do I need to get there to be able to feel good again?
I love that, because you have been doing this since you were 18 years old, and I'm sure you've seen the evolution of real estate. And now, hey, you've sold so many homes, you have such a great referral network, you can just do business with what you're doing. But instead, guess what? Estate dynamics. Tell me about that, because now you're starting to go deep down into technology, artificial intelligence. So you're never satisfied, and you're also trying to adapt to the new trends. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I personally believe technology is the forefront of what we're do. Some agents are always worried that technology is going to knock us out. I don't think so. I think technology only makes us better. And I thought to myself, what would be the best way to get business is to let business get to you, which I formulated with 27 years of selling real estate. But what I wanted was a system that was gonna like outreach to buyers and outreach to sellers and use intelligence to do so. So we created an AI program that basically gives us intelligence and lets us know who's looking at what and where and why in pattern with a lot of different data sets. And by the way, it's out of my pay grade. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a computer guy. I'm a real estate dude. But, you know, I built this program that's been really fun because it really helps step us up, and it helps us identify movements before they actually call, because the goal is to get as many buyers and sellers as you can. And the reason I set that up was because I asked myself a couple years ago, I was like, I'm great with negotiation. I'm great with marketing. I probably know more than a lot. But what really makes me different than any agent in America? And what I landed on is most agents all do the same things. And while we try to make the brokerage bigger and numbers great and marketing, at the end of the day, the systems are the same. And I wanted something that set me apart.
I love that. No, that's great. And talking about that, because you're now with this technology front, where do you see, especially in California, where do you see the market heading?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. You know, California has a lot of problems, obviously, you know, homelessness, crime, taxation. A lot of our market's gone to your market, by the way. In Miami,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people have
Hey,
gone to Miami.
nothing wrong with that.
You know, your numbers are seeing the same numbers we're seeing now. So it's definitely a
Yeah.
different world out there. That said, LA is a very established market. And even in its worst market and worst case scenario, it's bigger than almost any luxury market around the globe. You know, there was a minute when I love Miami, by the way. I think it's so beautiful. And,
Come
you know, in fact, at some point we want to, you know, get a place there too. But, you know, I studied the numbers, and while Miami has these incredible sales right now and a lot of the rich are moving there, it's just a little bit smaller than the mega city that, you know, I'm not even going to say LA. I'm going to say LA and suburbs, because it's a 28 million person city with a lot of wealth. More billionaires in LA, more billionaires in Southern California than almost anywhere in the world. Or especially, you know, it's New York, LA, but it's up there. When you include Southern California, it's almost at the top.
So when you're thinking about all these billionaires and super successful individuals that are either selling those mega mansions or buying those mega mansions, what is the number one concern or main trend that you see with these people?
Privacy.
Privacy.
Everybody wants privacy. Everybody wants safety. Everybody wants security. I work with, you know, obviously some of the wealthiest people in the world, but also a lot of famous. I mean, I've done a lot of really high profile, both business executives and celebrities in general. And I remember I sold a house to somebody super, you know, I remember, and this is public, but I sold it to a house to Ariana Grande, and I said, don't buy this house. It's not private. You're not going to like it, and you're going to be uncomfortable there. Literally 4 months, she bought it anyway. A lot of times clients don't listen to us. It is what it is. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And 4 months later, she was like, oh, it's just not private enough. I don't feel good. And so that safety, that security, that privacy is good. And also knowing what you like. They really know what they like, and they know what they don't like. And so it helps make our job easy. Not that our job's easy.
And I guess it's the fine line, because I was going to ask you, how is working with these individuals like? Because sometimes you got to keep it private, as you mentioned, but also you want to build your personal brand. You want to build your Rolodex. So how do you keep that fine line of promoting success versus keeping it private?
You know, I tell people today, I don't care who you are. If you're buying something high profile or you are high profile, it's almost impossible for me to keep it out of the media. As much as I would like, and we do our best, the reality is the media is looking at transactions that are closed every single day. They're looking at title every day. And they are very sophisticated in their background and their checks. And it's oftentimes these things become public, even if we don't want them to be public. And I tell people, I'm like, look, there's a real reality that this is going to be public. So you have two options. You can let the media tell their story, or you can let me tell your story and we can manage the story. And 9 out of 10 times, everyone wants to manage the story.
I like that. Well, that's interesting. That's what it is, and you gotta go with the flow, right? And
Exactly.
I always wonder, right, when you look at your 27 plus years of career in real estate, what was, I wouldn't say the most expensive home you sold, but the one that had the most meaning to you, and what did you learn from it?
The home that had the most meaning was my first house. It was just around 200,000. And the reason that was the most meaningful to me is because I did it. I sold it, and it got me started. And I'll never forget, once I sold it, I was like, God, I want 5 more. Since then, I've pretty much sold the world's most expensive homes, ranging in price from 150 going up to 300. And it's funny because I'm very not that connected. I'm connected to the outcome, but like once I close the deal, I don't even celebrate it. I move on. I'm like, okay, what's next? What do I do next? Because it's like you're only as good as your last sale. So we need to always figure out what our next sale is.
I love that. Well, let me ask you, because I always ask the same question to all of our guests. What is luxury to you?
Yeah, I think luxury is the most overused word, and I actually do not like the word. I think everybody claims to be a luxury specialist, is a luxury specialist, or wants to go into luxury, and I'm like, okay, that's overused. That said, if I had to give you a definition, for me, luxury is freedom.
Yeah.
And I probably because of my background, like I said to myself, I don't ever want to think about, can I afford this dinner? Can I afford this trip? Can I afford this car? Can I afford this house? It's always sliding scales. So obviously you have to be relative to the world you live. But I wanted the freedom to live the life that I choose and not have to worry about money. And money is a vehicle to be able to do so.
Perfectly said, my friend. I love that. I share that philosophy, and I think it's right on, and especially for somebody that came from nothing to all of a sudden now having everything you need. So
I mean, and being grateful for that. I mean, like, every day I'm super grateful that I don't, the choices that I make, I can just enjoy my life and not necessarily have to wonder where we're going.
Any regrets?
Yeah. I mean, listen, from regrets you learn, but I have 100 regrets because every time you make a mistake, you regret it, you learn, you pick yourself up. So yeah, hundreds of regrets. God, I made so many mistakes that probably cost me so many deals and millions of dollars. And in hindsight, do we wish we didn't have them? Sure, but hindsight's 50-50. And so, I guess from every bad thing I did or every bad decision I made, I learned. And I would say the thing that probably got me to where I am is the next day I just got right back on the bike and I started again, no matter how bad I was feeling.
That's right there. Consistency, the discipline to keep going. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
The one thing I do think I did wrong was I worked really, really, really hard. I just did. I worked really hard. And I feel like when I was younger, I didn't give myself the freedom of time because I was so focused on on wanting to get where I wanted to get to. And, there's a saying like, enjoy the journey, and you'll get to your destination. and I kind of wish I had spent a little more time. I don't want to say being young, but being young. Like, I worked my way through college. I worked my way through life. And so, I think maybe I worked a little hard, to be
Well,
honest.
from the outside, I think it paid off, but I love what you just said right there because at the end of the day, everybody has different speeds. It's
Correct.
about just getting through the journey. And look, a lot of opportunities are opening up for you. So I want to know, beyond being a coach, a speaker, running a successful real estate brokerage, having all these different projects, what's next for you?
Yeah. Um, we're just growing. We're growing the brokerage. We went from, 0 offices to 4 in a year and a half.
Wow.
We went from 60 employees to 300 agents, 65 agents to 300. Um, you know, I'm obviously never content with my sales. So we always want sky's the limit. And on a personal note, we're building more technology. I'm looking to travel more. Some of my objectives are a little bit more personal at this point. Possibly starting a family. We're looking at property internationally. I mean, things that are just fun projects.
I love that. And listing impossible. Are we going to
Yeah.
see a TV show or something
Yeah,
along those lines soon?
I really like doing it. There's been a lot of companies that have reached out, and there have been some talks. But if I did it again, and I would do it again, I would want it to be right, and I would want it to be under my terms. And so we'll see. Time will tell. Right now, my agenda is building the brokerage, continuing to sell. And, I always tell people, like, as a salesperson, you will only get so rich. So always invest your commissions. I don't care if you can have to buy something small, something in a bad area. Like for me, you always want to invest in real estate because that is how long-term we will gain wealth. And, I'm not a huge guy in the stock market and stuff, but I do believe property is how you ultimately can have the ultimate freedom, which is retirement.
There we go. I love that. Well, good piece of advice. Fascinating story. And I know that you're coming to Miami in November for the real deal. So I want to make sure we connect in there. For those that want to connect with you, whether it's to learn more through the coaching, to buy a home, to sell a home, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, just Instagram's Aaron Kirman, so pretty easy. And that's probably the easiest way to connect.
Love that. Well, congratulations, my friend, for everything you've accomplished and everything that you have to accomplish yet. And I look forward to doing some exciting things together.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Hey, call me when you're done with this. I have a quick question for you.
Will do. Bye.
See you.